Hey everybody, and welcome to inverse functions, or better known by Missy Elliot, to just put that thing down, flip it, and reverse it. Wise words. Alright, so before we get into inverse functions, let me get into a story first. So this is Hungry Hungry Hippos but Dogs. The story of Carlos and Clarita. So a couple of years ago, they started earning money by taking care of pets while their owners were away. Simple enough. Due to their amazing mathematical analysis and their loving care of cats and dogs they take in, Carlos and Clarita have made their business very successful. To keep the hungry dogs fed, they must regularly buy Brutus Bites, the favorite dog food of all the dogs. So, that being said, Carlos and Clarita have been searching for a new dog food supplier. Oh, too fast. Have been searching for a new dog supplier and identified two possibilities. One of them is the Canine Catering Company, located in a town that sells 7 pounds of food for $5. Carlos thought about how much they would pay for a given amount of food and drew this graph. So Carlos says about how much they would pay for a given amount of food. So he's saying, given how many pounds, could I then tell you how much money it would cost? Okay, well, what is the equation for Carlos's graph? Okay, well, we start at 0, 0. We go to, here's for 7 pounds of food, $5. Okay, so y equals mx plus b. So y equals the slope of this, rise over run. I go up 5, and I go over, so from 0, 0, I went up 5, and I went over 7. So 5, 7x plus y-intercept here is 0, so this is it. So y equals, and y in this case is dollars, so Carlos's equation is dollars equals 5 over 7 times the pounds of food. So this function says plug in pounds, and I'll tell you how much money these Brutus Bites are going to cost. So that's Carlos, okay? If you give me pounds, I can tell you money. Clarita, on the other hand, has decided she's going to go about this an entirely different way. So, with the same information, Clarita drew this graph. What is her equation? Notice she has dollars on the x-axis and pounds on the y-axis. She also said, so given the same information, which means 5 pounds of food, or sorry, 7 pounds of food is still going to cost $5. Here's our point here. $5, 7 pounds of food, still the same thing. But what's going on here is we're saying, okay, let's put in dollars, and with the amount of money I input, I can then figure out, okay, well, that's how many pounds of the Brutus Bites I can buy. And her equation here, again, y equals mx plus b, y equals m, rise over run, I go up 7, I go over 5, I go up 7, I go over 5, x and my y-intercept is 0. So right here, 0, 0, that's my y-intercept. Okay, so if we input dollars, so she's basically saying input dollars and we output pounds. So her equation is saying pounds equals, because the y-axis in this case is pounds, 7/5 times x, x is dollars, and that's her equation. So that's Clarita. Carlos's equation says I can output money, and it'd be 7/5 times the pounds. This is Carlos's function. Both of these are entirely correct for the given information. What do you know that's different? Oh, hey, one, you input money. For Clarita inputs money, and she gets out pounds. Carlos inputs pounds and gets out money. These two functions are inverses of each other because the two sets that we're going between is money and pounds. One of the people, Clarita, says, okay, well, I have the map that goes from money to pounds. That's 7/5 times the money. That'll give you the pounds. And Carlos is saying, great, I have the opposite direction, or I have the inverse equation which is saying if you tell me how many pounds you want to buy, I can tell you how much it costs. So if you insert pounds to Carlos, he's going to multiply it by 5 sevens, and he's going to output how much money. So this is simply equations that go from money to pounds, and one goes one direction and the other goes the other direction. Inverse functions are just simply that. Oh, you have a function that goes this direction? My inverse function is going to throw it down, flip it, reverse it, and go the opposite direction. That's all it is. So let's see this in a little more laid out detail. So an inverse function in math, an inverse function is a function that reverses another function. That is, if f is a function mapping x to y, or in our case, dollars to pounds, and let's suppose f of x does that, then the inverse function of f maps y back to x. So the inverse function goes the opposite direction and maps from pounds back to dollars. So in this case here, for f, a goes to 3, b goes to 1, c goes to 2. The inverse, notice this is now flipped, our sets have flipped. 1 is going to go to b, 2 is going to go to c, and 3 is going to go to a. It's literally just the opposite direction. That's all inverses are. Put that thing down, flip it, and reverse it. That's the essence of inverses. It's like Missy Elliot already knew. Okay, so let's try it out with this blank table here. It's not an equation, it's a table. I know what a table is. So f of x says I'm going from x and then running it through our function and say, okay, well, x is here, our output is here. So our map says 0 goes to 21, 1 goes to 31, negative 3 goes to 5, and 4 goes to 3. It's just a random function. Okay, well, if I want to reverse all of that, then, so I'm going from x to f of x. I'm now basically switching these columns. So now I'm going to have 21, 31, 5, and 3. So the inverse of this function is just, again, let's go the opposite direction. So 21 maps to 0, 31 maps to 1, 5 maps to negative 3, and 3 maps to 4. Hey, I just created an inverse function of this function, literally by, here's my thing, I put it down, I flipped it, reversed it, boom, inverse, done. So let's see some common things that we know about inverses. So we will see in the next video things about one-to-one, and we will see that not everything has an inverse, and we'll see some stipulations on exactly how to tell if something does have an inverse or doesn't have an inverse, and if it does have an inverse, how to find it, because what I've done in this video is a very, very simplified version. There's a little more complication to it. But in essence, that's what it is. We're just, hey, we figured out how to go one way, what's the inverse? Go the other way. Basically it, but then we have to figure out how to do that mathematically. So, inverse operations of some things we already know. Hey, what's the inverse of addition? How do I undo addition? Oh, well, I go the opposite way. I subtract it. Subtract Sean. What's the opposite, or what's the inverse of subtraction? Hey, how about addition? Because that's the opposite. Inverse is also synonymous kind of with opposite. What's the inverse of multiplication? Division. What's the inverse of division? Multiplication. Multiplication. You can see two things are inverses of each other. So multiplication, division, division, multiplication. So the last thing before I cut you guys off here, think about inverses again, are a map. So a map, if I go from my house here, here's me, that's my house, and I walk. I don't know why I'm walking because I have a car, but I decide to walk to, I don't know, how about Target? Okay, well, the inverse function then would be me walking from Target to my house again. Okay, so our original function was, hey, how do I get from my house to Target? I need some kind of map. Well, that function is the map. And that map goes, hey, this is how you get to Target, and here's how I can land you at Target. Okay, cool. Let me follow that function. Dot, 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 dot. Oh, hey, look, I've got there. Okay. Well, now I've arrived at my output or my destination. Okay, now I'm like, oh crap, well, now I need to get back home. Well, how do I get back home? Okay, well, that's the inverse function. Okay, well, how do I get back? Okay, well, the function landed me here. How do I undo it? How do I get back? How do I control Z? That's what the inverse does. It flips it, reverses it, it takes you back home. And you can continuously go function to inverse, function to inverse, function to inverse, function to inverse, and it'll keep kind of putting you around in a circle. So anyway, I hope that helped. Our next video, we will go over one-to-one functions as well as, okay, well, not everything has an inverse per se, so we'll see more mathematically how to do that. As always, please ask questions as needed.